Welcome everyone to the first part of our platform productivity series. Jenna is joining me on today's session, and I'll be going through how you can use the task functionality in your platform to be more productive.
Tasks can help your team stay focused, accountable, organized. In your Access Planet platform, you can assign those actions. You can use tasks to track progress. You have to link all of the tasks to the right places in your platform. So overall, your team is spending a lot less time chasing updates. So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, and everything that we'll be covering today is available in your off-the-shelf platform. There's no add-ons needed, so you can implement anything we talk about immediately after the session.
Yeah. So please submit questions as we go. We'll cover these all off at the end. And then also, as usual, we are recording. So if you need to drop out early, don't worry. Everyone who registered onto this webinar will get the on-demand link sent out as soon as it's available. So Frank, over to you. What's on the agenda?
So today we're going to look at 3 areas. How to use tasks to track your ad hoc actions, how to automatically have tasks generated in your platform when something happens, and how to configure the tasks functionality in your Access Planet platform to make it work best for you. And as usual, wrap up at the end with some Q&A, so please submit any questions you have as we go, and we'll do our best to answer all of them.
Nice. All right, about us.
So if you haven't met me before, I'm Frank, one of Access Planet's customer success managers. Sorry, that was a mouthful. I'll be leading all 4 of these productivity webinars in the series.
Yeah, and I'm Jenna, so I'm Access Planet's customer education manager and a bit of a nerd for the tasks feature, so that's why I'm on this one. So I'll talk a little bit about what tasks are first. So hopefully everyone that's on this session knows what a task is, but what does it actually mean in the context of your Access Planet platform, and what can you do with them? So as you would expect, tasks can be used to help you manage your personal and your team to-dos. Now, every platform in your task has a name. So that's what is the task that needs doing. That's the basic stuff. So in this case, it is organize, gardening, equipment. And then each task is also mapped directly to an item in your platform. So it could be a course, it could be mapped to a course, like this one is here. This is mapped to the gardening level 1 course, or it could be mapped to a customer account or an invoice, or the task could be mapped to a specific delegate on a course. That mapping, the purpose of that makes it really easy for admins to know what tasks are for. So which course are we organizing the gardening equipment for? But it also means that you can look at that item. So in this case, you can look at that course to see how the related tasks are progressing. So as you can see here, this is our gardening level 1 course. We can head over to the tasks data grid on this course to see that there are 3 related tasks. We've got, first of all, to close off bookings, and that has been done. That was assigned to Pip, and that's completed. The second task was to organize the gardening equipment, and that's still in progress. Unfortunately, Tom and Pip need to get it together and get that done. And then marking the course attendance is that last task by Tom. It hasn't started yet. So you can track this per course or per item, track how each of your tasks are getting on.
To help you oversee all tasks and manage your own tasks, there are a couple of views available. So there's the tasks data grid available from the main menu. The task data grid is where you can access every task in your platform. There you go.
We'll have a little zoom in.
You can apply filters and search to look for specific tasks. Here we are filtering to only view tasks that are due this week. And like any data grid, you can reorder and change the columns and sort the data to suit you. This is done by clicking the Change Columns button towards the top right of the task data grid. The second view available is the task Kanban board. You can switch between the Kanban board view and the task data grid by clicking on the toggle button at the top right of the page. The Kanban board's only filter is to show tasks that are assigned to you. This gives you a decluttered view of just the tasks that you need to look at so you can focus on your next job.
Yeah, I love the Kanban board. It's very drag and droppy. Okay, so we're going to kick off today with how to track your one-off actions using tasks. So tracking those one-off ad hoc things that you just need to do is really quite simple in the platform. So like picture this, you've just come off a call with a customer and you've promised to send them some follow-up information. Or maybe a trainer has flagged to you that there's a venue with an issue, it needs investigating, the venue looks to be out of action. So these are quick actions that don't need to be done every week. They don't need a full-blown project plan, but they do just need to get done. And this is where tasks can really help you out with that. So you can create tasks directly in the platform, link it to the relevant course or venue, customer or invoice, whatever makes sense, and then just crack on. Logging that task means that it's now visible, it's accountable, and you're not having to deal with lots of scraps of paper. What else? Oh yeah, each of those tasks can be assigned to somebody, then they can be reassigned, updated, completed. And of course, you can report on all of these tasks as well. So you can see where everything is up to, what's overdue, what's coming up. It's, yeah, really handy. So yeah, long story short, no more kind of forgetting what you promised, no more scribbled post-its. It's just simple task tracking right alongside your course and delegate management.
So how do you do it? Let's use Jenna's example. And we have had a trainer as to flag to us that a venue has some issues. So if you find the item in your platform that the task relates to, in this case, we're going to look at the venue in the resources data grid. Once we find the venue, right click on it to view the context menu. And then here you can click to add a task. And then just complete the form with the details of the task. So the subject, in this case, venue equipment issues. Let's assign it to the user, so Tom, and let's add the description. Let's make sure that we save and close it.
Boom.
And then once it's saved and closed, that's the task logged.
Nice.
That task will now be available in the task data grid to track and update. So let's open the task data grid from the main menu. And let's see the new task at the top. And then here you can use the quick edit option to make changes to that task. It will also be available to the assigned user Tom in their Kanban board view.
Nice. Okay, so that's creating ad hoc tasks. But let's talk about now when you want tasks to be created automatically. When something happens, you need to do something. This is really where you can get tasks to work for you. Specifically, it's creating them automatically when something happens in your platform. I'll give you a couple of examples. So if for example, every time a course gets cancelled, someone on your team has to remember to raise a cancellation report. Or perhaps every time a customer's invoice becomes overdue, someone needs to follow that up with the customer with a phone call. Now, every time that course gets cancelled or every time that invoice gets overdue, someone needs to remember to do those things, alongside their standard workload. This is where workflows come in. So you can use workflows in your platform to automatically generate those tasks based on specific triggers. And those triggers can be completely custom, just based on what you've got in the platform. So when that course is cancelled or that invoice hits 7 days overdue, boom, you get a task. It's created, assigned, and waiting to be completed. I didn't think I would boom. Yeah. So because it's automated, it's consistent, which is just very helpful for peace of mind.
We'll use that example of having a task automatically generated when an invoice is overdue. The task will be for a member of our team to call the customer. You very likely already have a workflow set up in your platform for managing overdue invoices. It's usually called something like paying user, invoice overdue, using the invoice module. The criteria or rules for the workflow will be something like status of the invoice is outstanding or part completed, and the due date of the invoice is in the past. Once you have the details and the rules defined, you move to the actions, and this is where you set what will happen to the invoices when the rules are met. At the moment, you probably already have 1 or 2 workflow actions on this workflow, which will send emails. In this example, we already have 2 workflow actions here. The top one sends an email to the paying user to chase for payment. And the second one sends an email to an admin to notify them that an invoice is overdue. We're going to add a third one into create task.
Yeah, so most people use workflows for emails, but you can also generate tasks using them. So I've just noticed this slide is wrong and that image is in the way. So I'll just talk you through it. So when you create a new workflow action, you have the option to either, like I say, send an email, which is the most common type, or you can generate a task. So this is what it looks like when you create a task. And in this example, we've said that we want the task to be created 14 days after the invoice was due. So now bear in mind that the workflow settings that we set in the rules all still apply. So this is only going to get generated when the invoice has the status of outstanding or part completed, like Frank said earlier. And it will generate this task for those invoices 14 days after the due date. We've set the account, so who owns this task, as training department, but that would be your training provider. And then the creator of the task is Tom Smith. So that's the person who creates it, not necessarily the person who will be doing the task. And then quite crucially, the mapped to here, the task is going to be mapped to the trigger object. And what that means is that the task will be directly linked to the invoice that's now overdue. Now you can select something else here, but it makes the most sense for most workflows that you want to link that task directly to the item or the object in your platform that made the task be generated. Hopefully that makes sense. Priority is, we'll just set that as a 3, but then you can use that how you see fit. And then typically, I mean, hopefully, obviously for most, it's the progress starts as 0 and the status is not standing. And then the subject for this task is going to be chase customer for payment. That's just a free text box. You could put whatever you like in there. And then the type we've just said is activity for now. So if you click, that should give us the rest of the settings. Go again. And one more time. This is me messing up the slides, trying to make them a bit more interesting before the webinar, and yeah, never mind. So then the last few settings here is we have the details. Now this is like the free text description of what this task is for. So what the assigned to user will get is a task that says the invoice is now 14 days overdue. Call the customer to chase for PIN payment and inform Lisa. But as you can see, this is a full free text box, so you can put whatever you need in here. And then the last 3 settings, so we've got the date of the task. So first of all, that due date. So the due date is going to be 1 day after the task has been generated. So task is generated 14 days after the due date, as we saw before, and they're going to need to complete the task by 1 day later. They start the task 1 minute after that. So after the task gets created, the start date is 1 minute after that. And then final setting is who is responsible for completing this task. So while Tom was the creator, Pip is the assigned to person. And this means now that every time an invoice is overdue by 14 days, a task is going to be automatically created for Pip to complete within 1 day, and it's linked back to that invoice. So it takes a lot of weight off your shoulders, I suppose, because it's just all created and ready to go. Yeah.
Well done. Okay, so we've looked at using tasks in the moment and creating them automatically. But what about making sure they actually fit how you work? One of the great things about Access Planet is how configurable it is, and tasks are no exception. In this section, we'll cover how you can make tasks bend to your processes, not the other way around. We'll look at 3 ways that you can adapt the task management in your Access Planet platform to suit your processes. So first up, you can customize your task types and statuses so they match your own processes. For example, if you'd like to introduce a follow-up needed status or waiting on client, you can add them. Next, if any extra information you'd like to record about task that isn't available as standard, just create custom fields to house that info. And finally, this is for super admins only. Use the configure forms option to tidy away any options that you do not use on your forms.
Yeah, okay, cool. So we'll start with how you can define your own task statuses and types. So Frank mentioned earlier, you're not stuck with the defaults. So maybe in progress and not started or completed just don't really cut it for the way that your team works. Or maybe you might want to add in a follow-up needed status for anything that needs like revisiting later. And I think you said waiting on client as well. So people can see when something's like out of your hands. So that's the statuses. On the types, you might want to separate out the different kinds of works that you do. So the list that you can see here is our just off-the-shelf list, so activity, call, follow-up. But you might want to include report prep or trainer comms or venue check. Whatever makes sense, the way that you want to categorize your tasks. It just gives you a lot more visibility and makes reporting a lot more insightful as well. But both of these, the task status and the task types, are all managed using custom list items. Just a few clicks to add them and instantly kind of gives you that setup that feels tailored to the way that you actually work. So it's about, I'm going to sound really cheesy now. It's about kind of speaking your team's language. Yeah, that was really cheesy. Making tasks fit your processes kind of naturally. So yeah, that's those. So the way that you manage them is you go up to the administration menu. So right at the top of the platform, profile, administration, and then you open up the custom list items page. That's this page here. And then you just click on the green add button at the top and you'll get this popover. So then you select your item type. In this case, we've gone with task status. And then next, you just need to provide what you want your label to be. So in this case, we've gone with waiting on client and then just make sure it's enabled as well. You can, if it makes sense, you can also set this option to be the default option. And that means that every time you create a new task, this would be the default status. Waiting on client probably isn't the default status, so we're not going to check it in this case. But we've given it a label and we've set it to enabled. Fabulous. Once we've saved and closed that, we will then go and have a look at a task. And there it is at the bottom of the list. We've got a new status option of waiting on client. So like I said, that kind of gives you that instant kind of tailored feeling, making tasks feel natural. So yeah, definitely recommend giving that a go.
Now, what if there's information that you want to store against a task that isn't there by default? So enter custom fields. Let's say you want to record how long a task should take. Create a custom field called estimated hours, for example. Want to track when a task should be done by, even if it's not a hard deadline. Add an expected completion date field, or as you can see in this example, we've added an actual completion date. You can even build out your own basic dependencies by including a task dependencies field. It's totally up to you. These custom fields are just containers for the extra info you need to capture. And because they're searchable and reportable, they help you stay consistent and build a more complete picture of your team's work. One thing we would say is not to rush ahead with custom fields. Consider what your team needs, what will be useful, because adding too many options or adding clutter will just make your platform less easy to use.
Yeah, we've seen that a few times, just getting a bit, All right, so actually that brings us nicely onto configuring forms. So this bit's for the super admins. With the configure form option, you can choose exactly what appears on the task form. So if you don't use priority on your tasks, you can hide it away. If there's a custom field you don't need anymore, you can hide that too. Or maybe you've got a custom field that's absolutely vital, you can make it mandatory. Or maybe you just want to completely simplify the form and only include what is essential. So it's this configure form option that you would use for that. So it's just at the top right of the tasks form, and when you click on it, it'll look like this. So every single item on the page will have these checkboxes of mandatory and hidden. And you can just decide using those checkboxes how you want your form to look. So let's make what we're doing. We're making estimated hours mandatory, and we're going to hide away completion date. So we would just check those boxes. So mandatory for estimated hours, hide for completion date. And then once we click that save form configuration button at the top, it will then look like this. There we go. So estimated hours is now mandatory. Whenever someone in our team now is creating a task, they will have to provide the estimated hours. Completion date's been hidden because we don't use it anymore. So it's like we said, it's like decluttering. We're not deleting anything. We're just tucking away the bits that we don't need anymore. You can use this configure form option throughout your platform. And in this case, it means like faster task creation, fewer mistakes, a much better experience for the team, but that goes for all the forms as well. So it's a really handy little feature. Oh, that says.
Already. Wow.
I know.
That's it for us today. As a quick recap of a productivity benefits of tasks. Sorry. So track your one-off actions with tasks. Create tasks automatically when an event happens, and make tasks work for your processes.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our Q&A.
Nice. Let's have a look and see if we've heard any. All right, so while we wait, we have got a few that we have been asked for before. So we'll go through a few kind of commonly asked questions that we get on tasks while we wait.
Okay, so the first one, who can create and manage tasks within the platform?
Yeah, we asked this a few times. So all admins can create and manage tasks in the platform. So everything that we've talked about today, apart from configure forms, is available to all admins. Plus, recently it was in our March release, trainers have been given the ability that they can add their own tasks as well. So they can obviously just assign tasks to themselves. They can't go and give you admins tasks, but it means that you can work with trainers kind of, on projects together. You can give them tasks. They can upload their own tasks and just manage all of that work in one, which is nice.
So another that we get often is, can I change the layout of my Kanban board?
Yes, you can. Yeah. So as you can see here, we are moving what we're moving. We're moving the waiting on client column around. So each of the columns in the Kanban board represents one of your task statuses. So that waiting on client was the one that we added before. But yeah, you can just drag and drop those columns into the order that makes most sense for your processes.
So can I bulk edit all my old tasks to complete?
Yes, you can. Yeah. So we have had, in the past, especially when people go through their implementation phase or onboarding phase and are like, yes, we need to log all of these tasks, and you end up with probably logging too many tasks. I'm very guilty of this. Like, yes, let's get it all documented, but logging just everything, things that don't need reminders. And then you end up not using it, and the tasks are all just adding up, and you don't actually need to use them anymore. So yeah, to go back through, you just apply a filter to your tasks data grid. So maybe everything that's over 6 months old or whatever, and then you can select them all and then use the bulk edit option to change their status to completed, and then kind of have a bit of a refresh and start using tasks for things that really need reminders. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Great. And can I add tasks to multiple items at once?
Yes, this came from a few product suggestions. This is actually quite new. So for example, what was the good example we had? If a venue is suddenly unavailable, that we talked about earlier, and we need to remap all of our classroom courses that are in that venue to a new venue, we can select them all from the class courses data grid and then it's just near the select all checkbox at the top, the new add tasks option there. And that will then assign that task that you describe to all of those items. So in this case, we could have a reassign venue task that we would then assign to all 4 of those courses all at once. They'd each be their own individual task that we could then process and manage and see what's left to do. Yeah.
That's really handy.
Yeah. Okay, we'll give you a moment to put any questions in. So if you use the Q&A, or I think the chat might be active, so either of those is good if you want to put anything in. Last check of the Q&A before we move on.
Have a look.
I think, well, I can see was that a raised hand there? Oh, we closed it just as it popped up. Yes. Lol, are you able to use the Q&A to type, or is that possible? Oh, that's a good question. So Lol's asking, can you have the Kanban board as a default view rather than the data grid, which is a great point, because a lot of people don't care about the data grid. They just want to zero in on the task that they're assigned to. So not on that page at the moment, but I suspect I would need to test this to be 100% sure that you'd be able to get the Kanban board view and put it on your dashboard. Would that be useful? I think we could do that. I think we could put it on a dashboard view instead, so that it's first thing you see when you log in. Okay, cool. All right. Right, we'll have a double check.
Yeah, we'll test it first.
I'm going to go 95% sure.
Putting yourself on the spot.
Yeah. We'll check. Okay, and then we'll feedback to you after that. Thanks, Lol.
Right, should we move on if there's no more questions?
Yeah.
Thanks for that. That was a good question. Good. Well, thank you all very much for taking the time to join the session today. We hope that it was helpful. If you have any questions about managing tasks on the platform, please get in touch with our support team via our support portal.
Yeah, have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thank you for your time. Yeah, bye.
Thank you very much.